Hey guys, it's me again. This is Randy. He owns DT Roofing, and I forget all the other companies, and you can introduce all those. He also, and I don't know his connection, but I know he works with Good Contractors List. But I've followed Randy for the last few years, and I love his companies. He's built an amazing company, amazing brand, and he really has a heart to take care of his clients. The reason why I picked him, because I'm not that good at running businesses. That's the reason why I don't have a good roofing company or contractor's business. Hopefully he is going to drop some nuggets of truth on how he has ran his amazing businesses. So, yeah, Randy, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started, where you came from, why did you get into construction?
Sure. Well, I actually got into construction on accident. I was an IT security guy for many years and a fireman. And I ended up getting into construction about 9 years ago now. Gosh, it's been that long. And I was doing my IT security thing and officing next door to this roofing company. And so I became friends, or I would say friendly with the owner at the time. And we'd go to lunch, we'd talk business. I didn't know a whole lot about roofing. My mom had 4 boys, and 3 of them were in construction, and the other one was a computer nerd. You can figure out which one I was. And so I didn't know a whole lot about roofing or construction. So in order to help him, I started selling on the nights and weekends for him just to kind of learn the industry enough so I can give him some pointers. And I ended up really liking it a lot. And so, they always say, be careful what you pray for. And so I was kind of praying, God, if you want me to change careers after 20 something years of being in IT security, you're going to have to make it abundantly clear, because it was like an identity to me. I had been doing it for so long. I'm only 48, so you can see that mathematically I've been doing that most of my life. And about a year after I had that prayer, the company that I had my biggest contract with got bought out for a large sum of money for private equity, and I no longer had a job. And so it was pretty obvious what my next step was, and that was switch careers. And so I went all in on the roofing side. Originally started just as a salesman, and then a salesman that started leading the sales team, and then a salesman leading the sales team running operations. And after taking the company to their first $3.8 million a year, because up until that point, they had been in business since 2009, but up until that point in 2016, they had never exceeded $2 million in revenue. So first year under my leadership, we did 3.8 and then 5.7 the next year. And it was at the 5.7 range that I asked for equity in the company. I basically told my now partner that, look, I don't want to help somebody grow their business only to get purchased, and I'm now without a job again. I just can't do that to my family. And so ultimately he agreed. And since then, we've grown our roofing company. Last year, we cleared $30 million in revenue for our roofing company. We also started 4 other companies. A commercial roofing company, a construction company that builds homes, does remodels, additions, patios, pergolas, outdoor experiences, a gutter company, Guardian Seamless Gutters, and then Patriot Garage Door and Service. And each one of these companies are all independently run. They're all have their own leadership, their own staff. I have 72 employees total among all the DT companies. And collectively last year, they all cleared $40 million. Several of them are newer companies, so not a whole lot on the board last year for those. And so that's how I got into it. And somehow at some point I got asked to speak on a stage at a roofing conference. And from that point on, I've been asked to speak on many stages at conferences and be on many panels. And I love helping people. I love pouring into other roofing company owners that are at where I was when I first started with the company, and not knowing a whole lot, trying to learn through osmosis and reaching out to other people that had made it. And so I felt like it was my duty to do the same. And so to this day, I still mentor a lot of roofing company owners, regardless of whether they're 10 miles down the road or across the nation. And I love seeing them kill it.
I like it.
And then recently I came onto the Good Contractors List as their COO. One of the benefits of growing strong companies and having strong leadership is I don't have to be part of the day-to-day operations. And so I got an opportunity to come onto a 15-year-old company that had been killing it in the DFW market for 15 years, managing a significant number of contractors and doing a guarantee on all their projects of $25,000 per project. And I was one of those customers. Since 2019, every single job that we have done has been backed by the Good Contractors List $25,000 guarantee, and it has been an amazing sales tool for us. So when the founder who lives in my community asked me to come on board the COO to take it nationwide, I jumped at the opportunity.
That's awesome, man. You are ambitious. I love it. And yeah, that's really cool. What is one thing when you went from like sales guy to having equity in the company, and like actually like what was that first moment that felt like when you guys were having like maybe an issue or something, like you're trying to make a decision, you were smaller, you're growing, like you guys don't know, maybe like you do know or don't know, like those like, oh man, this sucks kind of moment. You know those moments
Yeah,
in business?
I do.
What do you
Actually.
think your first one was?
Well, I'd say that one of the first growth things that I would share with newer entrepreneurs in business is wear as many hats as you possibly can until you can afford not to. I think too many companies start out, and as soon as they make their first $1,000,000, they start trying to hire a bunch of people and fill a bunch of positions. And then they turn around year 2, year 3, and they're going, where the heck did all the profit go? Our overhead is crazy. They try to grow too quickly, thinking that just because they landed their first $1,000,000 or $2,000,000, that they have a bunch of money to hire a bunch of people. And the reality is it's not until, especially in the roofing industry, it's not until you really hit like that $3 to $4 million range when you really truly do have the ability to, if you're running a clean environment where you're not spending stupidly, to hire salaried people. And so that's why I say wear as many hats as you can until you can afford not to, because we, for the longest time, I was leading the sales team. I got out of sales, which was another very difficult decision because I was a huge part of the sales numbers. But I got out of sales so that I can hire more sales guys and teach them the way I was doing it, so I can have a multiple effect, because I had realized that I was going to burn out. And we were finally making enough that it made sense for me to take off one of the hats, and that hat was be a salesman in the field, so I can just focus on working on the business instead of in the business. And so that was probably the most difficult transition, but also the best decision that we made, because it allowed me to then take a 50,000-foot view of the company and start figuring out processes that weren't working properly, that weren't efficient. I couldn't do that from the field. If I'm standing on somebody's roof trying to sell a roof, I can't figure out where the business's flaws are. And so, yeah, that would be my first advice is wear as many hats as you can so you can afford not to, and then be very specific about who you hire. On the sales side, I wouldn't necessarily worry about hiring people that have prior roofing sales experience, because oftentimes they bring their own bad habits from their prior roofing companies with them and affect your culture. It's better to hire people for things you can't train, like their integrity, the way they carry themselves, their willingness to work hard. And these are all things you can learn about them in the first few interviews. And then train them, the way you want them to do and represent your company.
I want to rewind real fast. You were talking about that transition from like being the sales guy, doing the management of the sales guys. It was just one of those Levi thoughts again. So you can tell me if it's stupid and you don't have to answer it. But I like to get deep sometimes, because like as men, for myself anyway, as a man, like you feel like less if you're not doing something, or maybe how you're raised, you have like doubts like, oh man, if I don't do this, you got those fears of like, oh man, if I don't let this go. Like what did you have to wrestle with to really like just set it down? Like what did you have to tell yourself, or what was going through your process because like you talk about like the good stuff, like if I let go, I'm going to be able to work on the business. I'm going to be able to do these things. But like, what was that internal battle that you were dealing with? Because I think that's where a lot of contractors come to, and sometimes don't get over that because they can't defeat the guy inside.
Yeah. So my biggest fear was, at that point, I was half the revenue of the company every year. So I was bringing in between $3.5 and $4 million in residential roofs by myself a year. And so my biggest fear was, I'm going to leave sales, think that I can train guys to do it the way I did it, so I can have a multiple effect, and then it fail. And then realize I got to get back into sales so I can right this ship again. Fortunately, that wasn't the case, but that was my biggest fear. is letting go. It was my biggest fear when I let go of managing the sales team, ultimately, when I got to the point where I can afford to put the right person in that position, because I realized that something I should have, learned a long time before I did was really good salespeople tend to be terrible managers of salespeople. And the reason that is because they tend to compare themselves or compare their salesperson to the way they would have done it. So if there's a certain situation, even though there's multiple right ways to do something, if they didn't do it the way I did it, then they was wrong. And so I was turning my guys off when I would bring them in and, hey, what happened with this? Well, you should have done this and done that, and not realizing that, no, maybe there's more than one way to do this. And so when I could afford to do so, I brought in a leader that was a little bit more empathetic, and the guys liked a lot more from a perspective. Like, they liked me a lot more when I wasn't the sales manager anymore. Put it that way. There was a lot more, hey, how you doing, Randy? I didn't get a whole lot when I was their boss. But when I just became the owner who's running operations and checking in every once in a while, man, there was all these pleasantries and how's your wife doing and kids and all that stuff. So that was probably, yeah, I would say that was the biggest fear. Was anytime there's massive change, I'm fearful that if I don't hold the reins, it's going to go wrong. And that's just my own pride. That's my own, thinking that reality is there's a lot of people out there that can do the job. I just need to let go of the reins and trust the process.
Did you guys, like in the earlier beginning, did you guys ever hire a receptionist, or did you guys do that job?
No, we've had a receptionist. I mean, that's an easy hire, because a lot of time, like our early receptionist, we got from like, what are they called? The employment services, where you can try them out before you buy, type of thing. And so, yeah. And so, they weren't expensive. I mean, you're talking about 2016. So we were probably paying $10 an hour, so that's not a real heavy expense to bring somebody on and let them answer phones and do some menial stuff around the office.
Do you think that's a key job?
It can be. It depends. It turned into it. So, for example, one of the ladies today that we hired that is still with us, she was the daughter of one of our roofing crews, and her entire life rode around with her dad and while he worked. And eventually, when she became an adult, she started doing his books and started helping with the estimates. And she would get on roofs. In fact, she had more certifications for roofing than most roofers do. Well, she came in the office one day and we noticed that she was kind of down, and we asked her, hey, what's going on? And she said, well, my dad's, he's just getting up there in the age and doesn't have as much work. And so he had to let me go. He had to let his own daughter go. And we love Teresa. And so we're like, hey, why don't you come work for us? You can answer the phones, you can file some paperwork and stuff like that. And we were thinking, maybe something temporary just to help her get on her feet. Fast forward, gosh, it's barely been, she's going to shoot me if she sees this, and I don't know, 6 or 7 years. She's now the company's comptroller, and she plays a key part in the company's success in regards to the back end of everything, making sure that, we guys are very disorganized, and she rides a tight ship. So she makes sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do on the invoicing side and all that stuff. And yeah, she's been a great blessing to our company.
So, oh man, you got so many good things. So, all right, so just recap where we're at. Getting out of your own way is key. Don't hire a bunch of people. Definitely need a receptionist. And if you're doing the sales, step out of your way when you can.
Yeah, and early on, you also want to hire a good bookkeeper. We have a CFO now that we're large enough, but get a good bookkeeper, because most entrepreneurs are terrible bookkeepers. And so you want to make sure that somebody, while you're trying to run the business, while you're trying to find the business, the customers and the sales and everything, that somebody is in the background paying attention close to your books to keep the reality of what is going on. Because you can sometimes open up your P&L and go, wait a minute, how are we losing money? We just killed it last month. And it's like, yeah, because you're hemorrhaging money here and there. And so having a bookkeeper that you can meet with on a monthly basis at minimum to just have a state of the union to go, this is the reality of the business, is very important to creating a healthy business ongoing.
If you were to start today with nothing and you started building, you were making maybe, let's say, 200,000 to 500,000, maybe $1 million a year, how would you find that bookkeeper? Like, what things would you look for in a bookkeeper? Yeah, like, how would you hire that person? Because there's a million bookkeepers out there. I remember I hired a bookkeeper one time, and the day of tax season. He didn't do any of our books and we didn't know it. And the day of tax season, the day after we were supposed to submit, his assistant called me and said, "Hey, come grab all your stuff. We can't get to your stuff. You need to find a new bookkeeper."
Yeah.
So like, what would you tell the people like how to find one? What would you do?
Well, I would say first, do your due diligence. This is a very important part of your business. So not only should you get online and research the people that you're considering, but ask for references, talk around to buddies that you may know that are entrepreneurs and find out who they use and if they're happy. Maybe they have several years with a company. Ours was originally a CPA firm, and we would meet with them once a quarter. We'd go over everything, but then we were also feeding our logs for our QuickBooks to them. So they were on top of it all the time, but we would meet once a quarter to go over the health of the business. And so, yeah, find a reputable company that, somebody can recommend to you that they've used. Don't just go for the first person that's got a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper printed on a telephone pole that says, "I do bookkeeping." Pretty important, probably one of the most important parts of a business, because if you don't know if you're making money, then you don't know if you're in business or if it's a hobby.
You were telling me about your company cultures before we met. What's your four cultures? Quality, culture, community, and integrity. So when did you guys implement these? Was this in the beginning or was this like
About 5 years ago?
Okay.
About 5 years ago. So about 4 years into my stint with the company, we decided that we wanted to have something specifically that and these all spoke to who we were already, but we just wanted to put it out there, because then we can always ask ourselves, because that room that I'm in right now is our conference room, and this is where all of our leaders meet once a month for all of our companies. And we always ask ourselves, because those are the core values for all DT companies, not just DT Roofing. And we always ask ourselves, so this month, what could we have done to better represent those core values? If there's nothing, great. If there's something, then let's talk about it. But those are all very important to us. Community, getting into the community is one of the best ways to grow your business, because one, it helps people know who you are, what you provide. It gives you an opportunity to serve beyond just the dollar that you're going to get from somebody. And so getting into a community is definitely very important. The schools, going to something as simple as going to a local school and saying, "Hey, how much debt is on the student lunch program right now?" Not a particular student, just this, what's on the program itself. They may say, "Well, there's a total of $1,500 that bunch of random kids owe." Good. DT Roofing would like to pay that bill, and that's it. I'll tell you what, you're not only blessing all those families that their kid run up a bill because they didn't have food for lunch or whatever, but it gets around. You don't have to put a big old banner saying what you just did. I promise you, it gets around. People are going to talk. "Do you know what DT Roofing did?" We did something like that one time, and it was in the newspaper, because it's newsworthy, I guess. Unfortunately, in our society, there used to be a time where that was just what people did. And so, unfortunately, in our society these days, any acts of kindness tends to get headlines, but don't do it just for the sake of hoping that you're going to get in front of the public, but it's going to happen. We support a local ministry called Many Mansions, manymansions.org. If anybody wants to look it up, it's many-mansions.org, but it serves single moms with kids. And, whatever the situation be where the single moms get into trouble, they're still stuck with raising kids, trying to make ends meet, and also not raise some lunatics, And so this helps moms, not only with monetary help and helping to pay a bill or whatever, but it also teaches them some financing, there's different aspects of the program, of the ministry, that it connects them with the church, so they can get connected with other moms. So just be part of the community, and that definitely will go a huge way with your company. Quality, obviously, that's a given. Like, you have to have quality product in order for you to, that's just baseline for any business. If you don't have quality, you're going to go out of business quick. Integrity, obviously, the definition being doing the right thing when no one's looking. Doesn't matter if you can get away with it. I'll give you an example. And it happens a lot. An insurance company will write up a scope of work, and they'll get a value wrong on the scope that makes us like a ton of money. Like, They said, maybe the valley only had 76 linear foot of ice and water shield, and they'll put 760 linear foot. You know, we could just invoice what was made, but we specifically will go back to the insurance company and point out, hey, you guys got this wrong. And you would not believe their response. They're like, nobody, I'm sure we've done this many times. I've never had anybody ever point that out. And it's like, that's the right thing to do, and it comes back many times. I believe that the reason why our companies are so blessed is because God knows what we're here doing, personally. But, that's my personal opinion, but
I love that. So I used to knock doors and sell asphalt sealer when I owned my seal coating company. And I did this. It's a sales tactic, but I did it because I like to give people better pricing, but I also like to work more. So like I would knock on a door and I would sell a job. Then I'd go sell the neighbors. And then I would literally go back to everybody and I would give them my bulk pricing on invoice day.
That's smart.
And they're like, why is it cheaper? And you're like, because you guys went bulk. Or sometimes I even told them, I'm like, hey, I got the neighbors signed up, but if I sign up 3 more neighbors and I can get over 12,000 square feet, I can get you all down to, 10 cents cheaper square foot. Doesn't sound a lot, but,
it can go. Trust me, I just put in a quarter-mile driveway in my house. I promise you. I know that can add up.
30 cents. It's usually 30 cents a square foot, so 10 cents is a lot. But my point is, did a lot of stuff like that. And, dude, one time I was working in D.C., and my crew hit downtown DC, hit some lady's like front deck with the skid steer, and nobody's seen it. I literally came back, I rebuilt her deck. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh, my crew hit it. I made my crew do it and everything. They all got paid. They're like, why are you doing this? Like, we could have got away with it. I was like, why would we do that? Like, we hit somebody's stuff, like, we pay for it. Like, it's just life, like, I don't think you should ever expect my sales thing. I did to make a little extra money, but it was also wrapped around the integrity thing. Like, I want you guys to all be blessed. Like, I'm not going to, like, I have a bulk price. I'm going to give it to you. You don't even need to know about it, or I'll even tell you about it. But hey,
Sure.
But I think integrity, I feel like it's like spiritually people can sense whether you're authentic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For example, like, if you have an alternative motive to like really just to screw them or to get like one up, I feel like people spiritually can sense that and be like, you know what, like this guy's only doing this for his own motivation.
Right.
So I think that's cool that you guys do that with the insurance, like especially in the roofing industry with so many guys out there screwing with stuff. Yeah. I think that like that actually gives me little tears in the eyes when you said that, because that's cool.
Yeah. And the final one is culture. And I think that's the one that most businesses lack. And they wonder why they have a revolving door when it comes to hiring and firing or quitting. And it's because you can either get up every day and go to your job, or you can get up every day and go to your career. And there's a difference. Somebody in their career is constantly looking for an opportunity to grow. They're constantly looking for an opportunity to feel like they're part of the business and not just a minion, a number. And so helping your team to have buy-in on what is our goal as a company ultimately, and not just the superficial ones like we want to hit 30, $40 million, but, specific things that prove that we're serving our customers. You have an organization. I have so little turnover in my companies, and that's across the board. That's not just because, roofing generally does have a lot of, no, that's across the board. All the companies, we have very little turnover compared to how many employees we have. But I would say in that vein, when you do have to let somebody go, it has to be, you have to do it. Sometimes I think companies, they don't let somebody go who's the wrong person for a position because it's just rough. It's just hard. But you have to remember, in my case, I have 72 other families that are relying on me making good decisions in order for our companies to succeed so that they can maintain their livelihoods. And if I have somebody in my organization that is not pulling their weight, they're not doing their job, it's my responsibility to correct that, even if it means I've ultimately failed as an owner because I hired the wrong person to begin with, and I've wasted their time too. but I'm going to give them an opportunity to go do something that they're passionate about because it's clearly not that job, and then let them go, So it's not easy to let people go, but you got to do it when it's the right move for the company.
So when you guys started your 4 pillars or something, what do you guys call these?
These are our company values.
Company values.
Our core values, yeah.
When you started the core values and you guys started implementing these, like in the first year, did you guys see any difference with like employees and?
Well, that's what I was actually going there. I don't think. So I don't remember who motivated it, but somebody said if you don't have core values stated in your company's website and in your then you can't define your company. So putting these out, I think what we did is we reached out to all of our team and said if we had 4 core values, what would everybody say they are? We had everybody submit them, and these 4 were the most common of the 4 that we heard. So we actually built our core values off of what everybody felt were our core values already.
That's fire.
Right. And so then we now have something, we have accountability. Now it's okay. We said this is what we're about. Now let's do it. And so that's what we're doing. We come home, when we come in the office and go into trainings or whatever, and we see this on the wall, it actually means something, I've always told every person I've ever mentored, like, you just focus on serving your customer well and the money will come.
Man, we're cruising here. Is there any other advice that you would give other business owners
on any particular topic? I mean, we've talked a little bit about bookkeeping. We've talked about hiring and firing. We've talked about culture.
Oh, yes. I know something that we haven't talked about, and and this is totally because you were talking about business, but brand. I know one thing about you is that you've built a really good brand. And that's hard to do, like building a brand. And you ain't got like one of those sexy logos with the characters that they got now. You guys got a good logo that like is simple, stands out. But like, I kind of feel like when I see you post or I see anything about your companies, what's cool is I kind of get the vibes of your core values with it. But yeah, go ahead and talk about brand. Like, tell me about your brand. What's your guys' mindset in building your brand? Stuff like that.
Sure. So as we started out, we started as DT Roofing, okay? And DT Roofing was what we were. I think too many companies try to add too many services onto their brand, and they eventually don't have an identity at all. And so when a customer is looking for a siding company, or they're looking for a roofing company, or looking for a garage door company, and they come across DT Roofing, siding, garage doors, and chicken and oil change, they're not going to use you because you have no identity. You have no core thing that you're good at. If you want to be in all of the trades, then get really good at one thing, build a brand around it. And then when you start another company, you don't have to name it DT Construction. You can name it Kingdom Builder Construction, a DT company, and you're still going to accomplish the same thing. It has its own identity. It has its own staff, but people know, I haven't seen that company, but I know who those guys are. I know that DT. And if it's those guys behind this, it's going to be good. So you build that core brand, and then you have permission to start other services around it. Patriot Garage Door and Service, a DT company. Guardian Seamless Gutters, a DT company. Those were instant successes because we had already done our job with our branding on the DT, so that customers already knew. So Patriot did $1 million its first year in business as a garage door company.
That's fire, bro.
And so it's just a matter of having an identity. It's not to say that you can't be a company that does 2 things. If you're Johnson's Roofing and Siding, okay, but be really good at roofing and siding. But just keep in mind that your SEO is going to suck sometimes, because Al's Siding is probably going to get more attention from Google than Randy's Roofing and Siding will, because you're a roofing and siding company and the customer's looking for siding, not roofing and siding. And so the algorithm may not favor you unless you have a really good SEO guy like, Mr. Levi here that, uh,
No, you
that,
don't have to give me a boost up.
yeah,
Dima did your guys's, and he did a killer job.
he did. And that
yeah.
was actually, ironically, that was the area that we sucked the most. We were doing killer at branding. You can't come into my county and leave here and not be just completely inundated with my brand. Whether you go into a local coffee shop, and here's a little nugget, so write it down, guys. Whether you go into a little coffee shop where when you pick up the coffee cup, it says Firehouse Cafe on one side and DT Roofing on the other. That's easy to do.
You want to know something funny about your marketing stuff?
What's that?
Is everything that I teach for years to my friends or anybody that you do all these things like that coffee cup idea. That's a Levi marketing thing that I try to get people to do all the time. Bro,
Dude,
I'm
it
gonna
works.
tell you, I'm gonna go on a little tangent. I'm gonna share something with you that I would not here in Texas, but Washington. This would work. It could work here in Texas, probably not. But one thing in Washington, they have like trash cans in a lot of places.
Mhm.
So I thought I tried to get a company to do this at gas stations where, hey, we will provide brand new trash cans.
Dude, I got you beat.
Go.
You know what I do?
What?
Put benches out right outside of gas station, the liquor store area where you go in to pay for your thing. Put a bench there and put the branding on the bench.
Oh yeah,
and give it to them for free.
So that's what I was talking about with the trash cans too, because everybody uses trash cans. And I was even like, man, I'd talk to this guy. I had this one roofing guy, and he's like, man, I really want. I'm like, dude, like, because they already have these rundown trash cans by stoplights and stuff. So people want to throw a trash can. I'm like, man, we could go get brand new Rubbermaid, those nice trash cans. And and I have a company that I started something like this for. And I'll tell you this, I can't give that secret because it's like for my paid customers, but
that's okay.
The trash can.
You don't have to replace the can though. Just clean it and wrap it. Do a wrap.
But you can, it has 4 sides. So you have branding, and then you can charge other companies to have the other part of it.
Yeah, but it's that micro marketing. That's what I call micro marketing, where you get on. We have another Greasy Spoon. That's what I call the little breakfast places in another city that we serve, where we're on their tables underneath a laminate. We're on the back of, like I said, on the like a park bench type of thing, but or like a city bus bench, but it's in front of gas stations and it says Toughest Texas DT Roofing. I remember the first time I'm sitting there pumping gas at this place and going, every time I'm pumping gas here, I look at the back of that bench. So I go inside, I'm like, can I pay to put my banner on the back of that? I'll pay you like $65 a month. And they were like, sure. I said, I'll even pay you a year in advance. Can I go ahead? Yep. $700. Now, all those thousands of customers for that entire year sees my brand right there, and it costs me almost nothing.
So I worked for this roofing company in Washington, and I drove like Texas is a little different, but like in Washington, like when you go to like a main road, there's usually like 3 or 4 main roads that go to that.
Yeah.
So like you could have 30,000 houses on these 3 roads that go to one intersection or 2 intersections. So
Johnson County has a road like that.
So what I do is I go find that farmer or whoever. And I'm like, listen, man, I'll pay you $60 a month, and I'm going to put a banner up in your corner there. This is what it looks like. What do you think? And he's like, do it, bro. Yeah.
You have to think outside the box. So many people, I've actually been asked when, doing a Q&A when I was up on stage at a conference, like they'll say, what's the silver bullet in marketing for your company? And I was like, there is no silver bullet. It's a whole magazine full of silver bullets and one in the chamber. Like you have to do, they'll say, do you do billboards? Do you do truck wraps? I was like, yep. It doesn't mean that you own every single one in town. You can overbrand yourself. And I know there's people that don't think that, but it absolutely is possible where you can get to a point where people are like, I get it already, So you just want to be just ambiguous enough for people to go, I think I see you everywhere. And you know what? Guess what? The number one response is when the ladies that answer the phones ask, how'd you hear about us? I see you everywhere.
So I run specific Facebook ad campaigns that do similar stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys don't want to do it. So I'm not Facebook ads like to get leads, but like I brand a certain way so I can try to get their name everywhere more. But
Yeah.
what you're talking about is, as I showed you at the beginning, I believe the stuff that we're talking about right now is like the foundational stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of guys, like when you're starting out, you might not be buying benches and doing other random stuff. But like at the end of the day, like getting your brand out there, like getting people to see you is absolutely key. Like
Very.
There's a reason why lawyers, you drive down the freeway and you see freaking lawyers everywhere.
The hammer. You know?
It's funny because in Texas, I'm from Washington State, and you can see a lot of different places on billboards, but here, man, it's like every other one is either Cane's Chicken or a lawyer. But on that point, like one thing that I tell everybody about marketing is like, who here knows Taco Bell, you know? Why does Taco Bell or Cane's Chicken, why did Cane's Chicken pay, what's his name, that singer dude, so much money to be on billboards? Why does Taco Bell still have billboards? Why does Taco Bell have Facebook ads or Google ads or still have TV ads? They're Taco Bell, right? People are always going to go to Taco Bell, but they do it because they want to be top of mind.
That's right. And you know what? They also remember that there's a new generation coming up every single day that doesn't remember Taco Bell. So you have to you have to be able to, you know, that 5-year-old that sees the billboard, then when they're 11 and have their own money, they're going to Taco Bell too. So it keeps that generations going to it. So
if I owned a roofing company and I was above 5 million, so I would stock up. You know what Alibaba is?
Mm-hmm.
So you can buy like really nice grocery bags, you know, like the really nice ones. You can get them for like 25 cents a piece from Alibaba if you buy them in bulk and brand them. I would be getting those grocery bags or the cooler bags that like, because everybody wants to use their own bags nowadays.
Yeah.
So I'd get a good one that would last. And then I would have 4 to 5 things in there. I'd have a etch and sketch. I'd have a Stanley cup, and I would have pen, paper, and like one other little like thing for kids. But you can get all of this on Alibaba. So like the whole bag would literally cost you like $10. Everything has your brand on it, even the etch and sketch. And literally when you're doing your 5x5 or 10x10, you literally you don't even knock on the people's door. You hang it on their door as a door hanger. You just put $5, $10 worth of stuff on their door, all logoed up. Kids screaming in the car. They got the etch and sketch with the brand on it. Like, bro, if I owned a roofing company over 5 million, that would be the first thing I put in place.
I love it.
Because you'd literally every house, I'd even like get to the extent where like, what's his name? Dylan with Limitless.
Yeah, McCabe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were doing the battery chargers and stuff. Like people love that stuff, bro. Like you can buy those on Alibaba for like $1 a piece. Yeah, that's funny. Hold on. Yeah, buddy.
Yep. I love that mullet, man.
But seriously, I did the math, and you buy the pallets, you know, and with brand and everything, it's $10. You could do a whole bag for $10 to $15, and you're dropping that off 5-10 people a day.
Yeah, love it.
No, sorry, you got me all excited because nobody ever talks about wild stuff like that. Branding for you is literally to be everything, like everywhere. What's really cool is I think your community stuff and your branding, like you're sitting here talking about being on benches and stuff, like I also like, and you can tell me I'm wrong or right. I think that community part where you're talking about how you guys do lots of stuff in the community. And what's cool is you kind of like don't boast about like this paying the lunches. But like, I think when they see that, they see you on a bench, like, I think that's when it really starts to resonate, in my opinion. But like, what's your thoughts on it? Like,
no, I absolutely. I mean, that is, look, we're not going to say that this isn't strategic, but it doesn't mean that just because there's strategy behind it, that it's not sincere. You know, we really do love serving these moms that have kids. My mom was one of them. In fact, we have a scholarship that we give away every year. We give 10 scholarships that they're like $1,000 a piece to students at high schools that that the ministry is chartered to serve, of single moms. And so my mom they actually named one of the scholarships after my mom because she passed away a couple of years ago. And it was kind of to honor her because she was the reason why I got on the board for that ministry was because she was a single mom. And so I appreciated seeing all the struggling she went through. So now I can pay it back and be a part of something that serves people like my mom was. And I'm a product of a single mom, you know?
Yeah.
So
I
no, it
think,
is sincere, but it is absolutely, it is strategic. We have the ability to, everybody can dream up ways to do things and to grow their business, but we have the means to be able to do it because we've done business well. We're not
yeah,
around here screwing people. We're doing it. All these core values are the reason why we're successful. It's not because, everybody can put a roof on. A roof is
yeah.
ugly. If you think about it, it's the most mundane thing that you can think of, but we make it fun. We make it interesting. We make it about serving. And so I'd like to say that we get our piece of the pie and a little bit of everyone else's in our area because we do it well. We're the Coca-Cola of roofing is what I like to say in our area.
Nice.
People know us. So, and we're growing and we're constantly growing it to hopefully, a much larger area. We just opened up 2 new territories. One of our territories did $1 million in revenue its first month open. So we're doing something right, and we'll continue to, do the same formula and hopefully continue to thrive.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I heard what's really cool is like what you're talking about is on a larger scale of like, it's not a true story, but like I heard this rich guy tell me, it was kind of like a Chinese proverb kind of type deal, but he said this little girl went to her daddy and she's like, if I had $1 billion, I would do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And the dad says, why not save that $1 billion, invest it into things, make more money on that $1 billion, and then you can pick on the things that you want to give. And you can give some money, but you're going to be able to give way more than $1 billion if you keep investing that $1 billion. And in 20 years, you could give over $2 billion. And so when you're talking, I'm thinking about that because like you're strategic in all these ways. You're doing your core values. You're living a good business. You guys are doing the right thing, and you're serving the community. And you're out there in the community putting branding everywhere. And it's like a full circle journey.
Yeah, I learned something from a guy that's way richer than I am. And he's many, many, many times successful in businesses. And his name is Cole Hatter. Definitely look him up if you can. He's definitely an inspiration. He said, you have nonprofits and you have for-profits. He said, what I run is a for-purpose company. He said, because then I never have to, as a Christian, I never have to apologize for wanting to make a lot of money because there's always a purpose for that money. Yeah. And it was like a huge perspective for me, right? Because growing up with nothing, being broke, I was okay with just getting by. And then when I started making some money, I started to feel a little guilty. Like I got all this money and, and then I realized I could do stuff with this. So when the church said, hey, the youth wants to do this, and I could strike a check for $10,000 and go, here you go do it. And they're like, are you serious? And it's like, so have a for-purpose business. Pick a thing. This Cole was talking about, he whether it's drilling well, you saw Mr. Beast, he had one of his most viral videos was he drilled 100 wells in Africa in 100 days or something like that, right? Have a purpose. For every roof that DT puts on, we're going to drill a freshwater well in Honduras. I'm not saying that. I'm saying have a thing that not only blesses people, but the community can get behind. And now they're buying the roof from you because you are going to do that for those kids in Honduras, not because you do a fantastic roof. Because like I said, what are roofs? They're kind of boring and not sexy at all. But it's the purpose behind the business that the customer will go, that's who I want to get my business to. I love what they're about.
Yeah, unless you're putting on a Brava tile roof.
Now I have a stone coated steel roof and I absolutely love it. That is a sexy roof.
You're talking about the stone coated shingles?
Yep, I have it on my house currently.
I've seen only one of those and they're absolutely
fantastic looking.
Gosh,
probably the last roof I'll put on my house too, even in hell-ridden storm North Texas. So.
Yeah, they're sexy, man. I like the way they're coated too. We're closing up our time here. Yeah, man, there was a lot of good stuff, Randy. I really enjoyed this.
No problem.
Yeah, I love chatting with you. You're a good dude. I love it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
So, but all right, that was our wrap. That was good.
All right, man.
Thanks, Randy.
Let me know how the final production comes out.
I will let you know. I'll
right.
send it to you.
Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Talk to you later.
Take care, buddy.
Bye bye.
Bye.